Now, let's move towards our first keynote, Meditation as the Heart of Yoga, the Need for Faster Adoption, by Padam Shri Dr. H.R. Nagendra, Founder and Chancellor, S. Vyasa University.
My dear brothers and sisters, what a wonderful program Chandraji has organized. Congratulations to you for not only giving the intellectual feed, but the experience of what Patriji has been giving us through the wonderful breath awareness, and along with the Nada Yoga that you made so deep and so wonderful. Thank you so much, Chandraji. And this is the way the conferences should not only give intellectual feed, but also an experience dimension to the people at large. Once again, thank you so much for making this such a wonderful event today. Yoga comes from the word yuj in Sanskrit. Yujyate anena iti yogaha. Yoga essentially is to raise ourselves from our normal level to become great, super divine human beings and reach the ultimate goal of human existence, to reach our original state. And that is what yoga talks about. So, Swami Vivekananda expanded the vision of yoga. I'll take that. Earlier, in tradition, yoga was only Patanjali yoga. Then we had karma, bhakti, the dimensions of jnana and yoga. But Swami Vivekananda said, since everything ultimately reaches the same goal, everything should be called as yoga. So in his famous proclamation, he expanded the vision of yoga. Work or worship, philosophy or psychic control, by 1, 2, 3, or all of these and be free, he said. And that is the great way by which Swamiji expanded the vision of yoga. And path of intellect is Jnana Yoga, understanding, going beyond the intellect to reach the highest level. Raja Yoga is the path of Patanjali Yoga, the path of willpower. And Bhakti is the path of emotion, science of emotion culture, to gain mastery over the emotions. And it has to be brought into every action that you do. Every action should become a yoga. Yoga is the science of holistic living. Is it ever possible? We always thought yoga is some sort of asana or a pranayama or a mudras, bandhas, meditation and so on. But Bhagavad Gita, Krishna Bhagavan says, every action should become a yoga. How is it possible? In his, look at beautiful shloka, he talks about, Pashyan, Shrunvan, Sprushan, Jigran, Ashnan, Gachan, Swapan, Shosan, Pralapan, Visrujan, Grunhan, Unmishan, Nimishan, Napi, Indriyan, Indriyartheshu, Vartanta yiti dharayan. Seeing, talking, walking, eating, urinating, excreting, everything should become a yoga. And that is the real yoga. Yoga is the science of holistic living. How is it possible? You have to have that inner calmness, inner peace, inner tranquility. Yogastaha kuru karmani, sangam tyaktva dhananjaya. Says the karma yoga, that's the dimension. So all the meditation that we do and yoga, other practices should enter and percolate into our day-to-day life. That is the dimension then. So all these streams of yoga should lead to the same goal. All paths of yoga lead to the same goal. Moksha. What is that moksha that we talk about? Moksha is absolute freedom. The meaning of moksha means freedom. Freedom from all our bondages, stresses, challenges, problems, everything. And it is a state of infinite freedom, infinite bliss, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss. That's our original state. It is beyond space, time, causation. It is beyond mind, mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. That's our original state. That's the way that moksha has been defined. So all streams of yoga lead. And Patanjali Yoga is the wonderful thing which is known as Raja Yoga. It is based on the aphorisms of yoga, 196 sutras. Patanjali gave in 4 different chapters, Samadhipada, Sadhanapada, and the Vibhudipada and Kaivalyapada. Go deeper and deeper dimension. And that's the wonderful way by which we systematize the whole streams of yoga. The Raja Yoga starts off with gaining control and mastery over the mind, as beautifully brought out already by our Upadhyayaji, Chitta Vritti Nirodha. That's the goal. Gaining mastery and control over the mind. Has 2 dimensions. One is to make the mind faster mind, quicker mind, brilliant mind, innovative mind, creative, faster mind. That's one dimension that has been brought into our education system. We are all trained in that. But there is a second dimension to mastery. Calming down the mind, silencing the mind, tranquilizing the mind, going deeper into silence, and go beyond mind itself to dimensions. These are the 2 dimensions. And how to read that? The Ashtanga Yoga, the 8-limbed yoga, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, Bahiranga Yoga and Antaranga Yoga. That has been brought forth nicely. And Antaranga Yoga is direct control over the mind. The remaining things, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, belong to the indirect control over the mind. So, in direct control over the mind, we normally start with the development of concentration. This is all we do in our education system. And we all know how concentration is mandatory for success in our dimension, And from there you have to go to the next dimension. And that's the schematic we have. The 8-limbed yoga, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi has to do. From concentration, we go to the next level. We all are trying to gain from, as our dear said, it is the limited brain to the next level that we have done. From the limbic brain to the next thing. From chanchalata, from multiple thoughts, unconnected thoughts. From there we go to the concentration. What are the difference? There are multiple thoughts, that all these thoughts are connected with one another in concentration. From there you have to go to the dharana. Dharana is to fix the mind on a single thought. Desha bandha chittasya dharana, as Patanjali says. So the example is, you keep a candle flame and go on watching it, without winking the eyes. Closing the eyes, fix the mind on the single thought. That is the dimension called as dharana. In dharana there is focusing of the mind. And in concentration there are multiple thoughts. The multiple thoughts have now come into a single thought. Single thought with full focus. And that's what normally we have to develop after concentration. And dharana is the one that brings tremendous amount of energy to the focus. And we have the great example of Arjuna and the wonderful Dhanurvidya he got. When Dronacharya called different people, come on, see what you are going to see there, and then you have to hit that thing. What is that? On the tall tree, a bird was put, and the goal is from 100 meters away, you have to hit that thing. What? Not just the bird. Eye of the bird, of the pupil, of the center point, of the pupil, of the eyeball, of the eye, of the bird you have to hit. One by one they came. Okay, Dushasana, what are you seeing? Why, Guruji? I see everything. I am not blind. Go back. Then comes Duryodhana. What are you seeing? I am seeing only the bird. No, you go back. Comes Bhima. I am seeing only the eye. Then Dharmaraja says, I am still seeing the pupil of what you say, the eye of the bird, of the tree and all these things. Still I need some more training, isn't it? Yes. Finally, when Arjuna says that I see only that point, nothing else I see, and hit it. That is called dharana. When you are looking at maybe on one point, you can see all other things you should not be able to see. That is the intense focus. That's called dharana. And this is the principle that's used in laser light amplification by stimulated electron radiation. And when you go on focusing each other, The energy increases tremendously and it brings about the nuclear transformation that takes place. That's the beautiful dimension that talks about. Dharana is very strenuous. You can't do that for a long time. Therefore, dharana, while it works, this thing you have to go to the next step. That is dhyana. That's where meditation comes. So, we have to move from dharana to the next called dhyana. Effortless dharana is dhyana. No? That's the seventh theme called dhyana. Tatra pratyaya ekatanata dhyanam. As it is said, Patanjali. There is a single thought. And what are the features of that? The single thought is featured by slowness. It's the decreased metabolic rate. But yet you are awake. Wakefulness. And there is effortlessness, awareness. And there is a feeling of expansiveness. These are the 5 features of what we call as dhyana, or meditation according to Patanjali dimension. So, we are moving from the general random mind towards concentration that works at the intellectual level, and from there you go to the memory level dharana, and you go to the next level of I thought. This is how we move in our advancement towards control and mastery over the mind. So normally, japa is the one that normally used for dhyana techniques, which increasing thing. But our Patriji said, let us work on the breathing. So it's a beautiful combination. He brought out this dimension. So from dharana to dhyana, and there we don't end. Dhyana should lead to samadhi. And what is that samadhi? It's a jump within. Normally in all our transactions, normally we have the dimensions of Triputi, it's called. So that is the trifold process of action. Now I am talking. Welcome. Namaste. In all our actions, we have 3 dimensions. The seer, seen, and the process of seeing. I am talking, the subject of my talk, and the process of talking. You take food, you are there, food is there, and the process of eating. Even in meditation, there is a meditator, meditated, and the process of meditation. This is called Triputi. When the Triputi merge together one, that's called Samadhi. Samyak adhiyate iti Samadhi. But it says, Tadeva arthamatra nirbhasa swarupa shunyam eva Samadhi. It says, it's a process of absorption. And that's what meditation should lead. So Patriji, when we are all discussing several times in this thing, we go deeper and deeper and get into a wonderful state of Samadhi that comes. So becoming one with the scene is the Samadhi that we talk about. Tadeva arthamatra nirbhasa swarupa shunyam eva Samadhi. That you go into that time. That's the definition of this thing. What happens there? There is a jump in our consciousness. There is a jump in our mind from the gross to the subtle. This is what happens even in the physical world. And that's where you see that. When the electrons are swirling around the nucleus with higher and higher speed, you go on putting energy to that. And when certain quantum of energy, equal to h nu comes in, then it jumps from one orbit to the higher orbit. And that's called as the quantum jump. Similarly, it can jump from the higher to the lower orbit. Normally, when from lower orbit to the higher thing, there's a quantum jump that takes place. This is where quantum mechanics has come into picture, which beautifully our Chandraji has been explaining dimension of quantum mechanics. So, what happens in the physical world happens similarly at the mind level. When you do dhyana deeper and deeper and deeper, when you go, there's an expansion of consciousness, jump within. The mind jumps from one level to the higher level of consciousness, higher level of subtlety. And that's the dimension that comes. And the quantum jump, electrons jumping from one to another in the physical. Similar thing at the mind level. Subtle world, jumping from one layer to the other, subtler layers of consciousness. This is how we have got up. So this is what Patanjali says. Culmination of the Ashtanga Yoga is Samadhi. And Samadhi is a state of immense bliss. And that is the inner realm to go beyond the meditation. So what features Samadhi is the way to bliss. Expansion from one level to the next. a tremendous amount of bliss, fragrance of bliss spreads, unbelievable spread, superlative bliss it comes. And commands, there is expansion of the mind. And this brings lightness of the body. And even sometimes when you go deeper, it may go deep into the subtle lightness. The body also can change, transform. And the knowledge, deeper perceptions start coming up. Extrasensory perceptions can come. And great creativity will start coming up. And that, when you go deeper and deeper in meditation, enter into the samadhi. And that's the unparalleled bliss of samadhi that comes. That is the culmination which Patanjali has given there. So meditation is the heart of yoga. That's beautifully brought out. Why? The meditation front move today from optional add-on to the essential core. It has to move. That is the thing that is needed today. So why this conversation matters now? Look at that. 12.1% of the people in US adults, see that nervousness, anxiety, mental challenges, all are increasing. And 23.1% US adults lived with a mental illness in 22. 38.4 million Americans practiced yoga in 2022. A huge audience for deeper inner work. So translation for yoga leaders, peoples are not only looking for exercise, they are looking for regulation, steadiness, meaning, and recovery. That's coming up one by one dimension. So you see that meditation is not outside yoga, it's inside, it's part of the yoga. Chitta vritti nirodha. Therefore, meditation is part of yoga. Yoga is the generalized thing, meditation is the inner core. Yoga is often taught by the outside in ethics, body, breath, attention, meditation, then absorption. That is samadhi. When meditation disappears, the pathway from posture to awareness becomes fragmented. So when we teach yoga as only movement, we cut the ladder in half. So we have to go beyond that dimension. What meditation actually does inside yoga? Alright? Attention lands, regulate, breath steadiness comes, slowing down of the breath comes, and relaxation starts, and the mind starts noticing. Awareness, integration starts, practice becoming insight, and you carry forward. Without meditation, yoga can build flexibility. With meditation, it builds well-regulation, discernment, continuity, and practice. That's the dimension that comes up. So, evidence snapshot, why foster meditation adoption is necessary. Stress and mood. Mindfulness and meditation research suggests reduction in stress. Stress has become one of the major challenges today. Stress is not merely physical. It works at several levels. It's a multi-dimensional challenge that we face. Physical trauma can cause stress, mental restlessness, emotional upsurges, deep-rooted psychological conflict, all are to the base of stress. And meditation is the remedy for doing all these things. Heart health, meditation studies suggest possible benefit on cardiovascular risk factors and blood pressure, even as evidence quality varies. And what is to be done? Practical standard for decision makers. If a practice is low cost, low risk, and culturally adoptable, and supported by enough evidence to justify trial, waiting for the perfect proof becomes its own risk. These are the dimensions that have to be brought forth. So therefore, the adoption gap, what people think yoga is versus what yoga can offer. Normally, what non-practitioners often say, see, it is a type of physical exercise, something flexible people can do, one more atom to schedule, not necessary for me. This is how people have this thing. So, what meditation does, you can see, a daily tool for self-regulation, a path for movement to awareness, an inclusive practice to many things, a spiritual discipline and practical dimensions. These are the dimensions that start coming up which we had to have adopted. So why adoption is slow? Because positioning, teacher confidence, audience anxiety, commercial pressure, cultural framing. All these things are the ones that bring this dimension. So what foster adoption unlocks for practitioners? Stress recovery, attention quality, emotional space, and spiritual depth. Faster adoption is not about adding more content. It's about making the same hour of yoga do more of what people actually need. That's a dimension that has to be brought forth. So what faster adoption unlocks for teachers, studios and programs are brought forth here. Classes feel more cohesive and purposeful. When you go to Patri's classes in the Pyramid Valley, thousands of people sitting there continuously, and our Chandra's classes, when you go there, you will feel such wonderful experience. That's the dimension that comes. And retention rises when students feel calmer, not only stronger. Physical vitality starts coming up. Offering becomes more inclusive for people who do not identify as fitness first. Teachers gain a clearer philosophy, not just a sequence library. Organizations can translate yoga into workshops, school and healthcare settings. Everywhere it should start coming up. Therefore, a simple implementation model could be before practice, 1 or 2, 3 minutes of these things, arrival, breath awareness, intention, orientation to the room, and so on. Then during the practice, the micro doses. Then after practice, 3 to 8 minutes of this thing. Redesigning a 60-minute class. We have done this thing, and Patriji also has been working on this dimension. To work on this thing, there are 5 to 15 minutes, wardrobe, 15 to 20 asana flow, downshift, meditation, and closure. This is how people start off. So they gradually develop themselves into more and more meditation. Sitting for hours together becomes possible. So this is how we have to move from slow to steadiness dimension. Where adoption can scale fastest is workplaces. Frame as focus, recovery and burnout prevention. Schools and universities start building. Therefore, we built the wonderful program for the schools and colleges and higher these things. Frame as attention training, emotional literacy, and nervous system regulation. Healthcare, the most important. Healthcare and rehab. In that we are bringing integrative medicine. We have wonderful Vinod Palji, who has been doing fantastic work in the Niti Aayog. We all have been working together, bring the total dimension of yoga added on to the conventional modern medical system. And in studios and retreats also, frame as the inner thread that differentiates and brings experience. That's the dimension we have to do. So the common objections and better responses have been just enumerated here. Say, common objection. My students just want movement. Many of the teachers say, they don't want. Give them movement, but use it so that the dimension take them later. Meditation makes beginners uncomfortable. Therefore, we don't want meditation. They say, but that regards. So does every skill starts up. Normalize it, shorten it to begin with, and gradually develop. Oh, it feels too spiritual for some audiences. So we had to use proper language, appropriate to content, breath, recovery, reflection, everything. So some people say, hey, it feels too clinical for others. Do not strip out meaning. Keep humanity, ethics, and inner life dimensions properly. And a 90-day adoption also has been developed. Gradually develop this from the first month to second or third month. Adoption grows when meditation is treated as infrastructure and not inspiration. So they ask the 3 decisions that accelerate adoption. That's the topic I was talking about. That is, stop presenting meditation as an optional add-on. Train teachers to guide calmness as confidently as alignment. Measure success not only by attendance or flexibility, but also by slowness of breath, calmness of the mind, continuity, and lived impact. Faster adoption is not about rushing people into silence. It's about making the inner dimension of yoga easier to encounter trust and dimension. Meditation, sattva and the human flourishing is the most important. From inner transformation, social harmony, ethical service, and responsible technology. Therefore, Swami Vivekananda emphasized again and again, be and make. That's the way to go beyond dimension. So what is the change that we want? As meditators, as people taking the yoga, the most important thing is to raise from tamas to rajas, rajas to sattva. And sattva is the cave. And meditation converts energy into awareness and awareness into character. That's the most important dimension. So, meditation at the core. Renunciation and service are the twin ideals of India. Swami Vivekananda said, character has to be bought, harmony has to be bought. Ideal society emerges when inner discipline becomes outer compassion. Swami Vivekananda said that how to make India the leader, the whole world. He says, India will not be made if you make an economic superpower. India will not be made if you make it a defense superpower. India will not be made, you make India as a technological superpower with skyscraper buildings and the topmost industries. When will India be made? When you take India to its cultural roots. What are they? Sattva. Renunciation and service are the twin ideals of India. Channelize India and everything will take care of itself, he said. That's the dimension that meditation and yoga dimension brings. And we have been able to show that in the Vijayanagara Empire, the civilizational grandeur we had. And people used to come to Vijayanagara Empire with the Krishnadevaraya, not for learning yoga, not for learning philosophy or science, but India was the richest country in the world. People all used to come here to get the Aishwarya. Today, why do our youngsters go to America? Economic superpower. So people used to come here. But when they used to come here, what they were seeing? Such honesty, that transparency, that love, integrity, honesty, and wonderful healthy situation, full of health, blossoming health, and wonderful blissful thing, and meditation endeavors. And when they were seeing this thing, they were amazed. They have written this grandeur. That's the ideal social order. People living in tune with nature. These are the dimensions that were coming up in that thing. That's the India that we want to rebuild. So, yoga, technology must amplify sattva, not distraction. Development of technology, coming up of AI, everything should see that we develop this sattva dimension in people. And then only the India will be made. So, AI can accelerate information, attention gets fragmented, convenience can deepen dependence. And therefore, these are the things that we have to look into and see that we grow and we use suitably the technology that we are developing. So meditation is at the heart of yoga. Therefore, go even beyond meditation for samadhi, a quantum jump. May our methods become as deep as our message and start off with relaxation of the body in the body movement, flexibility, relaxation of the body level. Then the breathing should start slowing down through the pranayama dimension. And then go into meditation, calming down of the mind. And go beyond that to quantum jump to the samadhi. That's a wonderful thing way ahead. And therefore Swami Vivekananda said, be and make. And meditate deeply, grow in sattva, serve widely, use AI wisely, and build one world family. That is the wonderful thing that we see. Therefore, we have the great message from our Honorable Prime Minister to make this a wonderful dimension. And I'm very happy that such a beautiful conference has been organized by Chandraji. And this is the way forward to remove conflicts and wars world over. You know, what a shame it is to see that we war each other in terms of the ego and others. This all can change only when we raise to the level of sattva. From rajas to sattva, from tamas to rajas, rajas to sattva, they have to bring forth. Then only we'll be able to bring. And I was wondering what message he will give when Honorable Prime Minister became the President of G20. He said, we want to build one world family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, he said. How can this happen? Only when you build sattva in the people. Therefore, Swami Vivekananda emphasized the whole of yoga, meditation, is not only get the calmness of the mind, to transform ourselves from rajas to sattva, in which we give and give and give. And what we receive from the nature, we should give much more. Jivane yavad adanam syat pradhanam tadodhikam should happen. And that's the way that we raise from our normal level to become great human beings. By that, we not only serve people, not only we grow, but we see that we bring peace on earth, we bring the wonderful harmony in the world. And Patriji again and again was emphasizing this aspect. And whenever we used to meet and we had together many conferences and many workshops together for many years, our whole emphasis is to bring this dimension of harmony, peace, to bring one world family. And this can happen with meditation. And meditation is the key for the transformation. And for such thing, we are missing Patriji today, but we have his predecessor, Chandraji, and almost supported by Karthikeyanji. He has been a wonderful creation, and we started doing from this wonderful conference from the last year. And once again, I am very thankful that you have been able to organize this again. And we are happy that Upadhyayaji also came here as one of the advisors of Ayush Ministry. The whole Ayush Ministry is also promoting International Day of Yoga. Through that, all dimensions of yoga being spread to not only few thousand, but in lakhs and crores. Last year our target was nearly 20 crores. This year the target is 30 crores of people should do that. And over 100 days. It will not be a one-day affair. It will become continuously going on. Our Honorable Prime Minister said it should go into education system itself. That's what we did by building the syllabus for the primary school education. Then he said it should go into higher education. We built the syllabus for the higher education into UGC and other. And into the health scenario, we had to bring the integration. Therefore, we started Advanced Center for the Integrative Medical Research in AIMS about 15 years back, and yoga has started coming in every department today. And always I applaud the wonderful support given by Vinod Palji, who has been driving the things in Planning Commission, and also Niti Aayog, with which I have also been associated with him. And we all work to see that we move towards prevention and promotion of positive health first, and then really to deal with the treatment of these things. Instead of becoming sick and go for the hospitals, we should all work to see that we prevent diseases, promote positive health. The Ayush Ministry is for that, and we developed 1.5 lakh wellness centers for this purpose. And we are going further into this direction as Ayush Arogya Mandir, and our country is growing and becoming a role model for the whole world to follow. How much we have to spend for prevention. Prevention is better than cure, we say. How much budget, we say. Thanks to our Niti Aayog and others, now more than 10 to 20% budget has been put forth through the wellness centers to develop. This can change the entire thing. Therefore, once again, thank you, Chandra, for your wonderful organization and for bringing me here. I wish all the people now should start continuing this yoga dimension, and the meditation at the core of yoga we have to do. Chitta vritti nirodha. Gaining mastery over the mind is the key. It is not just a physical entity. Okay, we should do physical thing, we must do breathing, but dimension is to bring in calmness of the mind, silencing of the mind, tranquilizing of the mind, and going deeper and deeper into the dimensions of total samadhi. Thank you all very much. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nagendra, for beautifully illuminating why meditation must be accelerated into mainstream adoption and providing a framework for the same. Now, I would like to call Dr. Vinod Paul, member Niti Aayog, to share his vision on integrating meditation into India's national health and wellness infrastructure, discussing evidence-based and policy mechanisms for mass accessibility. Let me introduce Dr. Vinod K. Paul, member of Niti Aayog, Government of India, is one of the nation's foremost physician scientists and architects of public health transformation, a distinguished pediatrician and former professor of neonatology at AIMS, New Delhi. He has dedicated over 3 decades to advancing child and maternal health in India. He has played a pivotal role in shaping landmark national initiatives such as Poshan Abhiyan and Ayushman Bharat, redefining healthcare access and nutrition outcomes at scale. As a former chairman of the Board of Governors of National Medical Commission, he has also been instrumental in steering medical education reforms in the country. With a rare blend of clinical excellence and policy vision, Dr. Paul continues to shape the future of India's healthcare ecosystem. Let's welcome him with a huge round of applause. And I would love to invite Sadhvi ji, Pujya Sadhvi Bhagwati Swasati ji on the stage. It's very difficult to find so many profound speakers on one dais. So let's keep clapping for our esteemed guest.
Good morning. Most respected Shri D.R. Karthikeyan ji, Dr. Chandra ji, Dr. H.R. Nagendra ji, Pujya Sadhvi ji, Shri Kaustubh Acharya ji, और इस सभागार में विराजमान लीडरशिप को रिप्रेजेंट करते हुए डिफरेंट वॉक्स ऑफ लाइफ से को रिप्रेजेंट करते हुए जहां आप सब महानुभाव जो सम्मिलित हुए हैं उन सबको मेरा नमस्कार. डिग्नेटरीज, esteemed guests from abroad and friends. It's a true honor for me to be here at the Global Conference of Meditation Leaders this morning. It's a true privilege, and I feel very humbled that I'm sharing the dais with leaders of meditation, leaders of spirituality of India. It's very humbling for me to be coming after respected Dr. Nagendra ji, जो उन्होंने अपने एक्सपीरियंस से, अपने कर्म से एक बिल्कुल नई डायमेंशन दी है योग को, मेडिटेशन को, स्पिरिचुअलिटी को साइंस के साथ जोड़ा है. आई एम वेरी वेरी हम्बल्ड एंड थैंक यू फॉर दिस ग्रेट अपॉर्चुनिटी. I have been tasked with the theme of scaling up meditation in the country. And because I represent Niti Aayog, which is the apex think tank of the nation, chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister, I'm attempting to put forth some ideas in front of you as to how meditation can become a way of life. We heard from respected speakers. I'm going to hear more about this. How meditation can change our society, individuals, communities, society, and nation. That is the power of meditation, I understand. And as I said in the last year also, my earliest exposure, Dr. Karthikeyan sir, was in my AIMS, first year of my training at AIMS, where I'm very path-breaking work was being carried out by stalwarts of neurology and neurophysiology, my teachers, who were examining the brain physiology of the yogis when they go into deep meditation. Some of the earliest work was done in the early 70s, and this is very much etched in my mind. So that exposure has been helpful in understanding the underpinnings of meditation, what it does to human physiology, human being, and the brain, and beyond, and the consciousness and the mind. Let me begin by saying we have heard multifarious benefits of meditation. If I begin by starting in the mental and emotional state, we are looking at this blessing to help us with relaxation, bringing calmness, helping in anger control, helping in reducing reaction, imparting more concentration, focus, better learning. Imagine, I want us to remember this something very important. Promoting learning, one pathway, an important pathway is meditation. But the empirical evidence says that it works. Better sleep, better memory, better emotional quotient, better relationships and teamwork. And then, of course, we heard specific advantages of meditation and role of meditation in mental illnesses, anxiety, stress, mood changes, depression, obsessive compulsive neurosis, bipolar. And I'm very emphatically would like to mention that we believe substance abuse problem is helped by meditation in a significant way, and more should be done in this regard. As an adjunct to medical therapy, health, pain relief, recovery, adjunct to stressful situations, heart conditions, cancer, as an adjunct for recovery, because it brings in positivity in the body through biological processes. And above all, of course, we heard now about spiritual awakening, higher consciousness, enlightenment, and inner happiness. Is there any other modality which can deliver so much to humanity? We also heard, and I think that's a very important point, and it's also my own understanding, improving understanding, that meditation is the heart of yoga, connecting yoga and yoga opportunities. And as yoga becomes more mainstreamed, the opportunity now is to include the meditation dimension of yoga overtly and systematically. That's my learning from Dr. Nagendra ji just now. So we have a great product. We have a great intervention. And now I like to align this to how we strategize delivery of interventions, say vaccine, or say a oral dehydration solution or a medicine, to the population, because they understand a little better on the health system. So you want to use this paradigm that we have an intervention. We call it intervention, something that changes life, improves health, like a vaccine, let's say. So we have a great vaccine. There is a target audience. And the target audience in other situations could be mothers or children or the elderly and so on. But here, every human being and the citizen is potential target. So the agenda is huge. Every one of us. There's no exclusion here. Some vaccines are targeted to children. Occasionally some vaccines are for adults. And so on. But here it is a universal, it's a intervention for universal coverage of entire population, technically speaking. So I'm trying to build this paradigm of how to go about. And that could be a discussion that the leaders may like to take forward in thinking through. So we have an intervention, we have the target. And I'll come to where the target beneficiaries are. We'll come back to that. In between is the how part of doing it. This is the what, and this is for whom. The between part is how. In the health system paradigm, we call the middle path of the how and the enablers of how as the health system. And I want to use that analogy which can be adapted to this unique part, sir. The health system can be visualized as a railway track. If the intervention is the train or an engine full of goodies, full of wellness, full of vaccine, full of things that work and bring up better health to the people, the mothers, children, babies, adults, elderly, what takes it there is the health system. That's what makes it reach there. And we have to think about how a blessing of this kind reaches here. And those are the enablers. What are those? Policy. Decision that we have to be done. Stewardship. Thinking. Strategizing. First one. Second, infrastructure. Here, it may not be too much of infrastructure, but an example of an infrastructure could be, shall we say, an interfaith meditation room in colleges or workplaces. Perhaps not much. We can use other infrastructures of the hospitals and so on. But human resources, we need people who can impart the intervention to the target. And there are going to be many such individuals, and I'll come back to that in a minute. We need strategy for service delivery. When vaccines have to be delivered, individuals are in different places. You make a micro plan. You will decide how to convene them and how you reach them. So you need a plan how to reach different categories of people. You also need information systems. And above all, you need, as a part of the health system, what we call as community mobilization. The Jan Andolan, as the Honorable Prime Minister puts it. Involvement, outreach, a buzz, a feeling that we are part of the journey. This is the rough part, the middle part. What in health is the health system, but this is essentially the how part of how the interventions reach the people. The goodness reaches the people. Education reaches the student through schools. The school is part of the system. Teachers, and so on and so forth. So I like to visualize in this fashion. The first one, intervention is easy. And I'll come back to that a little one point later on. But that's clear. We know what it is, right? Largely. I speak for standardization. I'll come to that point a little later. We then have to understand where our target populations are. And that now goes to a real part of the discussion. Among the citizens who should become part and parcel of meditation uptake, shall we say, very special people are children. Absolutely, because the habits are formed in childhood. Second opportunity for habits and lifestyles happen during adolescence. For children, it's even more important, and I have said this before, because in the formative stage of the brain, things that we bring in there make all the difference. And imagine what meditation can do. In the earliest part of our life, starting within utero period, fetal life, and early period of life, the brain is increasing in size, but even more importantly, the neurons, the brain cells are making connections with each other. Each neuron, there are 85 billion neurons. And each neuron makes connections up to 1,000, 7,000 connections with different neurons. So a whole lot of the synaptic business is going on. That's how the neurons communicate. That's how the evolution, thinking, cognition happens. If at that time we give the right advice, right intervention, it will make a difference. So earliest period of life is important. I think one important site would be our Balvatikas or Anganwadi, where 3 to 4 to 5, 4 to 5, 4 to 6 years children can be brought into this habit. But then the real place where we can see a lot of action is the school. Sir has also said that schools में हम कैसे ले जा सकते हैं? स्कूल के ले जाने के लिए हमें टीचर्स को उसी भावना से कैसे तैयार करना होगा is the challenge. लेकिन the beginning for nation to change, the beginning cannot come after 28 years of life or 48 or for that matter 58. It should be introduced at that time. That orientation must be there. So, very often these things come to our lives so much later. We all can relate to that. When you meet a guru at some point, it has to become democratized. So children are special, schools are special, youth. Where is the youth located? Of course, homes, but then in colleges, hopefully increasingly in skill centers. They are outside the school, and they are working at workplaces. We have systems like NSS and NCC and youth organizations. That could be the channel through which all this moves. Then, of course, the workplaces have been talked about, the offices, the factories, the shops. Here there's also a challenge. A lot of elderly a lot of the youth, working age people are not necessarily in beautiful offices or the corporate offices. How do we reach that? And perhaps for that bottom-up approach would be needed, but we shall not forget that their special effort has to be made for them. If they are in self-vocation, they are in small shops, they are construction sites, they need it. All of them need it. Of course, there are more urgent necessities and nobody can quarrel with them. खाली पेट मेडिटेशन नहीं होता है, स्वामी जी ने भी कहा, ये स्वामी विवेकानंद ने कहा, सबसे तो ठीक है, समझते हैं, लेकिन पहुंचेंगे तो वो पहुंचने के पाथवेज बनेंगे. सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स, पंचायती राज, विमेन्स ग्रुप्स, RWAs, armed forces system, police system, the prisons, and so on and so forth. If you visualize, then we can start seeing where the clusters of people are, where we can reach out. And then we have seen in the past how some of these national movements have touched lives of everybody. So this is the broader one, but then there are specific ones. And here I would like to underline the need for reaching out to the elderly, because what happens at that stage is we are more receptive. And whatever now can be done by way of embracing meditation should be done. An increasing population of elderly who are free from other vocations, largely can and should be reached as a special target group. Another important place I highlight is the hospital and health facilities, because that's a point where there is a place for meditation to improve health and to put the individual on a journey of positive health for future. That's a great opportunity. You are listening at that time. You are concerned. You are willing to change. Hopefully, can we enable it? Ayushman Arogya Mandirs, as a way where yoga is practiced, is already there. 1,87,000 such locations are there. And we build on that the meditation component systematically. And that time has come. I think this is the one message that comes from the dais today. Embed this into the yoga ecosystem, which by itself is moving very effectively, positively within the nation and beyond. That's a message I take in my learning. We keep in mind. De-addiction centers and prisons. De-addiction centers in particular is a place, and those who are affected by this, for their rehabilitation, injecting meditation as a modality. How is it to be done? Do we have models how it works? Are they effective? Are they got owned up by the families? A very important area for work, because this population, this group of young people are sliding away from the society to an abyss. If meditation can help, can we develop the tools to do it? Can we systematically pick it apart into a protocol-based meditation that can be incorporated? And so on and so forth. So this brings out how and where all this we have to reach, and I have tried to attempt to say who the key players in this journey would be. Of course, more needs to be spoken. But going forward now, there are very important enablers. And those enablers are the ones that I'd now like to touch upon in my last part of my submission here. ये सब करना है. इस तरह पहुंचना है. We are getting a sense of how to reach. The role that will be played by the society, by the leaders, by the mutts, by the other community systems in our country. But the target is every individual, starting with childhood, starting with youth, starting with adolescent, when the habits are being formed. No one can be left behind in this, to use the SDG analogy. I'd like to bring to your kind attention that we will need now 6 additional things. Firstly, I humbly submit that we collectively should bring about what I loosely may like to call as a standardized product. The meditation, to my humble understanding, has very core elements to this. And then different teachers, different shall we say formats, build on that and add additionalities. So there is a generic version, and then there are these more specialized and perhaps increasingly improving versions. What is needed is, like yoga, where the asanas have been systematically put for different age groups by the Ministry of Ayush and other leaders. Similarly, the core of meditation should be brought out clearly in a readable form, in a video form. That is the core. And there should be a possibility that as an individual, I can get into the journey. I need a teacher for me to move faster. But can an individual make a start if need be, if he or she is not so fortunate to be able to get? I know that there are materials, I know that there are YouTubes and so on, but then when we are promoting this as a national movement, just as we've done it for yoga, some kind of a prioritization and standardization and the core to be made visible, I think would be of help, but I'm happy to be educated. That's the first part. Number two, so that it is not dependent on my opportunity to meet a great guru. And that should not be away from the broad tenets of meditation, what I land up through an easily accessible material and information. Number two, capacity, stating the obvious. Teachers are very important. Physical education teachers, yoga teachers, are they good with meditation? I'm not sure. Have we trained them for meditation? No. When we're talking about teachers, is everybody ready to own yoga and meditation? Perhaps not. It will take a while. How do we select the right people to be the agents of change in a school? It just cannot come as a training program in a room and happen, because this is internal. You need to believe in this. You need to you have to practice this to be able to pass it on. If it is theoretical, it doesn't go across. It cannot be a didactic thing. It's so internal. So I submit how we do that would be for us to consider. Mental health counselors are being talked about in schools. Can they be engaged into this? So we need to decide who does it. We're trying to build a picture of the strategy to take it to scale. These are the nuances, and there are many more that I may not be in a position to cover. Doctors, convincing doctors, a great opportunity to convince doctors, convince nurses, allied health professionals, the physiotherapists, the dietitians, the clinical psychologists, occupational therapists, and so on and so forth. So you need to identify who the amplified range of teachers are emanating from the gurus, so that the workforce is visible. I'm not waiting for a God-given opportunity, but the opportunity out there to help the individual. 3, we will need materials which are valid, authentic material, authentic resources, and a consensus on the resources, so that people are not confused कि ये वो नहीं है, ये उससे ऐसा होना चाहिए जैसे कि आयुष ने योग के लिए बना दी शीट कि ये करिए, हम उसको लेके करते हैं तो हमें पता है कि सेफ है और राइट है, more than safe. So those standard materials and resource materials is the third thing that we need. Then we need outreach in a very big way, stating the obvious, Jan Andolan, brand ambassadors. We have to be mindful of the impact of social media. I'm sure a lot of us may be working on this, and I'm sure it is also a success to reach, but then clearly that is where the influencing happens, the other media. And then also for a lot of people, a bottom-up approach, what happens in rural India and small towns where dynamics are different and the more elite dynamics, how do we handle that? How do we bring this buzz out there would be part of our strategy. So that's outreach. My fourth point is research. If we create good science, and we have a lot of good science, but much more. For example, if a claim is made that those who have a meditation for, let's say, before getting into elective heart surgery or cancer treatment, and they undertake meditation in a systematic way in the course of their management and then of course continue, are they better off? In what way? Is it anxiety? Is it recovery? Is it hormones? All this will help. Because today, the general way of understanding interventions is through the filter of science. And I think a lot has been done. Much more should be done. Nagendra sir also mentioned about the work that's being done at AIIMS. But big research paradigm is needed to convince the world and convince those who are not readily, who are willing to be ready converts. That will happen. You spread the word, there will be more and more people. But I think if you bring in science, it's a game changer for that day. So research must be an important part. Systematic research, directed research on the biological pathways and clinical impact. And lastly, use of technology. So as mentioned in the last presentation, and I wish to put it the other way around. One is technology as apps and so on. But more importantly now, the most important, most disruptive technology at hand, namely AI. One aspect of AI, it will create more problems perhaps. But the opportunity for the world and India is how technology can be used for better life, better output, better welfare. And can there be an AI personal tutor which does the right things? Can we create that? Because we are talking about personalized, tutors for let's say education, learning. Part of this pathway runs through the learning experience. It may be tricky, or should it something that we should not do it? I leave it there. So AI can take us both the ways, both the sides. I hope that like any other sector in which AI is going to have an impact, the effort is use AI for the betterment. Use AI to our advantage. And that is something that could be a debate this year. Last year, perhaps it was not so visible. But this year, I wanted to make this last point for humble submission as to how we connect our efforts with the AI, which is already pervasive, but it will become all pervasive. It will have issues that wobble us, disturb us, but can it be taken to our advantage through some of the possibilities that are on the horizon? In the end, I would say that this is a blessing. Meditation is a blessing, life-changing for individuals, communities, societies, and nations, and for India to evolve as a unique society in our run-up to 2047, promoting meditation, embracing meditation on scale at the population level will perhaps be a great service in the history of Bharat. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We can envision a future where meditation becomes the first line of prescription, embraced by doctors as a fundamental preventive pathway to health before medicine. Thank you so much, because we all need that how meditation can be integrated as a policy. And I think with the wisdom of Sir, we can foresee that. Now let's hear a power talk by Pujya Sadhvi Bhagwati Swasati Ji, a global spiritual leader, best-selling author, international director Parmarth Niketan. A huge round of applause for her. Let me introduce her. Sadhvi Bhagwati Swasati Ji, International Director of Parmarth Niketan, is the globally revered spiritual leader who embodies the profound union of ancient wisdom and modern purpose. A Stanford graduate with a PhD in psychology, her journey from Los Angeles to the sacred banks of Ganga in Rishikesh is a remarkable testament to transformation and inner awakening. For over 25 years, she has dedicated her life to spiritual service, humanitarian leadership, and uplifting global consciousness. As a key force behind international initiatives in water, sanitation, interfaith harmony, and sustainable development, she continues to inspire action across the world. As an acclaimed author and the visionary leader of the International Yoga Festival, Sadhviji stands as a powerful voice for peace, purpose, and spiritual evolution in today's world. We welcome you, ma'am. Thank you.
It's such a joy to be here. Thank you so much to our Karthikeyanji, all of the beautiful, dedicated team here of PMC, and all of the organizers. We're at a very interesting time in history. We are the most distracted, the most depressed, the most anxious, highest rates of suicidal tendencies. We are the most addicted, the most disconnected, the most lonely. And there's a historic, unprecedented surge in people starting to meditate. Meditation is truly the answer to that which ails us. And I'll talk about this, but it's important to just begin with this understanding. It's not my meditation over here and my action over here. It's how my meditation weaves through my family life, my career life, every minute, every moment of my life. So if anyone is sitting here wondering how you're going to balance meditation and your other life, get that idea out of your mind right away, because it's not about filling things in. It's not like a thali where you say, acha itna dal hona chahiye, itna sabji, kam se kam ek roti. It's not about fitting things in. Our meditation is that actually infuses, informs, governs every other aspect of our life. It's the who of who we are as husbands, as wives, as mothers, as fathers, as daughters, as sons, as friends, as employers, as employees, as neighbors, as citizens on planet Earth. Throughout most of history, much of the world, particularly the Western world, has developed tools to understand life by looking outward. Telescopes, life in outer space. Microscopes, life that I can't see. But India, from ancient times, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, developed a science of looking in. Not instead of looking out, but with the deepest awareness, as our scriptures remind us. Yatha pinde, tatha brahmande. As is the individual, so is the Supreme. Or as we say more colloquially, jaise drishti, vaise shrishti. As is my sight, so is the creation. So this science was not developed to be instead of or separate from the outer world. It was developed to help us access the very instrument through which we understand and move and act and impact in the outer world. India gave us, our rishis, our sages, our yogis gave us a map of the mind, a map of consciousness, a way of understanding that. If you look at ancient religious traditions, The majority of them were focused on how do we make God happy? What will please God? India gave us a spiritual tradition that said, how do I know the self? Because in knowing the self, I will know God. Aham Brahm Asmi, Tattvam Asi, Soham. It turned us inward, even for the understanding of the divine. I came to India. I won't go too much into my story, but just to anchor it for a moment. I came to India 30 years ago. In September of 1996, as a 25-year-old PhD student, I had graduated undergraduate with a degree in psychology from Stanford University. I was then getting a PhD in psychology, pediatric neuropsychology. I grew up in Los Angeles, quite literally in Hollywood, hence the Hollywood to the Himalayas title of my memoir. And I had what on the outer level looked like everything. If you had looked at me, you would have said, uske paas sab kuch hai. And yet, what we know as meditators is, sab kuch is not really sab kuch. I had it all. But I had no idea who I was. I was an A+ student, getting A's on all of the exams. Could tell you everything the teacher asked and more. But I had no idea who I was. I had no idea what my life meant. I certainly had no idea about the divine. I lived in a state that so many of us know so well, of anxiety, of tension, of a false identification that was based on the physical body, what it looks like, where it's from, what it can do, how well it succeeds, and based on the history, where I've been, what I've done, what's happened to me. And so I suffered, like we all suffer. I came to India at 25 with a backpack on what I thought was going to be just a very short adventure trip in the midst of my PhD program. But I had such an extraordinary, powerful spiritual experience standing on the banks of Ganga that it transformed my life, and I stayed. But instead of going more into my story, I want to mention what it did, which was it brought me from what I call the Hollywood way of thinking to the Himalayan way of thinking. And this is what meditation gives us. And then I'll go a little bit more into the actual meditation around the world and what it's offering us. But I suffered because I was in what I call a Hollywood way of thinking. That sadly is no longer only in Hollywood, it's now kind of pervasive all over the world. And that way of thinking says you are your body. You are what it looks like. You are its size, its shape, its color, its race, its religion. You are how it measures up to standards of beauty, of success, of intelligence, of worthiness. That is who you are. And so we suffer. We suffer feeling not enough. We suffer all kinds of complexes. And we bring suffering onto others because if I'm only this body, well, then I better have more. Like I don't have enough yet. Not enough wealth, not enough power, not enough popularity, not enough success, not enough things. So I better grab more, which means we compete with others. We oppress others, we harm others, we steal, we lie. We grab and hoard, we harm the planet. The Himalayan way of thinking, which is what meditation gives us, whether you're sitting in the Himalayas or you're sitting in New York City or Paris or Tokyo or Delhi or wherever you may be. What it gives us is the awareness that you have a body, but you're not the body. You are soul. You are spirit. You are source. You are consciousness. And what that does is it removes the suffering. It is a journey from suffering to the end of suffering. India calls it, India's diagnosis of the suffering, is avidya. Very simple. Lack of knowledge, lack of awareness, lack of wisdom, lack of truth. This ignorance that says you are that identification. And the cure? So the diagnosis is avidya. The cure is meditation. Very simple. Sit down. Ask yourself, who am I? Ko-hum. So-hum. Come back to the self. Meditation dehypnotizes us. A lot of us think it's just about relaxation, stress relief. That's great. That's a nice byproduct. But that's not what the science was given to us for. Our rishis and our sages were not saying, "Hey, calm down for God's sakes." Dhyan karo. It wasn't the antidote to just stress and tension. It was the antidote to avidya and the suffering that arises from the avidya. We are hypnotized. We are hypnotized by our culture, by our society, now by media and social media. And we're hypnotized also just by the nature of the human mind and maya, long before we had any devices to help hypnotize us. And so meditation pulls us out of that hypnosis and actually shows us the truth. So it's not just about relaxation, it's about sanity. It's about truth. It's about awakening. India gave us the guidebook from the Manduka Upanishad to Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the Yoga Vashishta, to so many of our scriptures that have given us detailed. I'm not talking just theory, but I'm talking maps of consciousness. Here are the states of awareness. Here is the way that we work with the mind to free ourselves of the games of the mind. Because these days, as we eradicate almost all of that which killed us 100 years ago, things from bad water, bad food, rat-borne illnesses, mosquito-borne illnesses, bacteria, now we have antibiotics. As we've eradicated so much of that, we're still sick. But most of us are sick because of what's going on in our mind and then in our mind-driven lifestyle. We're so distracted. There was a study from Harvard University that said that we are 47% of the time distracted. And that was a study almost 10 years ago. So now it's just gotten worse. Half the time, we're not even present. We're distracted. And I want to give you actually one of my favorite studies on distraction, just to help you understand how severe the problem is. The average amount of time, we know that the average attention span is now about 46 seconds. But the average amount of time that the average worker in our average work environment works before being distracted, whether by their phone, whether by an incoming email or notification, whether by something buzzing or beeping or blinking or vibrating, the average amount of time. Guess how long? Guess. Any ideas? Average amount of time average worker gets to work before they're distracted? 20 seconds. Okay, it's actually better than you've guessed. It's 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes, which tragically sounds like an awful long time. But here's the incredible part. So in 1 hour of working in such a way that you are distracted every 3 minutes, in 1 hour, our IQ points drop by 10 points in an hour. Okay, we are 10 IQ points stupider at the end of an hour of working like that than we were at the beginning of the hour. But now here's for me my favorite part of this study. If we did no work at all, and by work I don't even necessarily mean something at your job. You could be sitting at home reading a book. You could be writing a book. You could be reading poetry. You could be writing poetry. But whatever we're doing that we are focused on. So 1 hour of being interrupted every 3 minutes, our IQ drops 10 points. Now, if we did no work at all, and all we did was sit at our desk and take drugs, get high for an hour, our IQ points would drop by 5 points in an hour. Now, what that means is that our current way of living and working is making us twice as stupid as if we actually did nothing at all but sit around and get high. Now, you imagine what is happening to the quality of our minds. Because here's the thing. We don't have to be able to pay attention only to get our work done or only to finish a book. Every single thing in life that matters. And forget meditation for just a moment. I'll come back to it in 1 minute. For 1 minute, forget meditation. Every other thing in life that matters. Having a conversation with your loved ones. Your spouse, your parents, your kids. Solving a problem like, hey, climate change, poverty, lack of water, war. We've got problems to solve. If we cannot focus and we cannot pay attention, and we are losing IQ points by the minute, not only are our own lives growing more and more meaningless by the day, but we are quite literally shooting ourselves in the foot and depriving ourselves of the possibility of actually solving the problems in our world. So meditation is that gives us our mind back for our lives and for that which we're going to bring to the world. It gives us the breath. It tells us just have one conscious breath. One breath in which you are aware and mindful. The breath is the only way we have, the only bridge of linking from our conscious nervous system to our autonomic nervous system, that which happens automatically, our heart rate, our blood pressure, our digestion, our reproductive systems, our circulatory systems. The breath is the only access we have to change the very way that our bodies are functioning. It's our only bridge to our own nervous system. So if you're feeling frazzled, stressed, distracted, restless, can't sleep, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, our breath is the one bridge to that autonomic nervous system. It also gives us access to our brains, because I'm sure that in this conference, You're going to have scientists who will come up and show you how meditation changes our brain. So I won't use my time to do that, other than to just say that I'm not talking about research being done in yoga studios. I'm talking about research being done at the top research-based academic institutions across the world, showing us that it changes us structurally, it changes us chemically, it changes the connections between the neurons, it changes the very pattern of how our brain operates. And as we get new connections, as we build literally more brain matter, because it literally grows our brain, particularly in this prefrontal cortex, which is what teaches us how to plan our lives. Anybody ever find themselves at the end of the day going, I was busy all day long, but I didn't do one thing I had planned to do in the morning? Anybody ever have that experience? Right? We get up in the morning and we're like, today I'm going to do. And at the end of the day, we look back and we're like, I didn't nap. I didn't give myself a mani-pedi. Where did the time go? What did I do? Strategy, implementation, planning. Basic skills for a happy, meaningful, successful life. Prefrontal cortex. Anybody find themselves in situations where you say to a loved one or even a stranger, or you act in ways, you lose your temper, and later you're like, that wasn't me. And you go back and you apologize and you say, well, to mera matlab nahi tha. I didn't mean it. Well, if you didn't mean it, why'd you say it? Who else is in there? Right? We say, it wasn't me. Well, if it wasn't you, who was it? The ability to have control, not a white-knuckle death grip, but the ability to be in charge, consciously in charge. What I think, what I say, how I live, how I spend my time. Prefrontal cortex, meditation, literally, not only improves the function of it, the flow of oxygen to it, but it actually increases it in size. We are growing brain cells, we are growing connections. It gives us also health in the body, meditation does. During COVID time, we had so many doctors coming online going, don't worry if you can't get out there jogging. Do yoga at home and meditate. It increases your immunity. We don't have time for me to go into all of the science of how that works, but look it up. It's all available online. Meditation actually improves our physical health. Whether we look at our immune system, whether we look at so many functions, it's all coming from the brain. However, and this is what I want to use my last 2 minutes on. However, these days, like yoga, like Ayurveda, like so much of our spiritual tradition, meditation is getting shortchanged. It's being packaged and sold just as relaxation, stress relief, lower your blood pressure. And that's great. It's wonderful. It's like if you get into yoga to lose weight, no problem. But don't leave just because you've lost the weight. Don't stop meditating just because your blood pressure is now at a good rate. Meditation was given to us to access the freedom, the only freedom that matters, of being able to grab that sakshi, that witness, that consciousness, that awareness. Freedom is not about being able to do whatever I want. Freedom is not being a slave to the games of my mind, telling me to do things I don't want to do. Meditation frees us of that as we access that awareness. Who's the one watching? I'm angry. Who knows that? Who's watching it? Who's aware? As we access that, it frees us. It frees us from the hold of the emotion itself. It frees us from the reaction. It frees us from the identification. It shows us, meditation shows us who we are. It shows us that our suffering, what we call dukkha, is actually a compass. In the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna did not tell Arjuna to ignore his pain. He said, use this pain as a compass to understand what is awry. You have in your mind an ideal. You have an attachment. You have an expectation. How they should behave, how the world should behave, what is right. That attachment and expectation is not aligning with the present moment circumstance. That is why you are suffering. But the problem is not outside. The problem is inside. And it's why he gave 700 verses, not on the best way to shoot an arrow, but on the best way to free himself of the dukkha that arises, not because of everyone outside, but because of the mismatch in my mind between what I want, what I think, how I identify, and how the world is presenting itself. I want to just conclude. I had so much more to say, but time is up. I want to just very quickly conclude with a story that I love, because as we're here in this conference and as we go through our lives learning meditation, teaching meditation, a lot of us can get kind of stuck in the technique. And we forget that the technique is just a vehicle to take us to truth. And so the story is a very quick story of 3 men who are stranded on an island. And they pray to be rescued. And they wake up one day and there's a canoe right at the edge of the island. And they're ecstatic. Oh my God, we've been saved. And they get in the canoe and they row it back to shore, back to the mainland. And a couple of weeks later, somebody sees them walking in the marketplace. And they're walking in a single file line, holding the canoe on their heads. And the person says, why are you walking with a canoe on your head? And they say, oh, this canoe, it saved our life. We were stranded on an island. And the person says, well, that's great. And why are you carrying the canoe on your head in the marketplace? And they say, oh, God, this canoe, it saved our life. We were stranded on an island. The canoe was a vehicle to get them from point A to point B, to carry them across what we would call the ocean of samsara, that ocean of ignorance, of maya, of illusion. It was a vehicle. All that mattered is they could use it. Could have been a raft, it could have been jet skis, it could have been a yacht. All that matters is they were able to use it. Our meditation techniques, all that matters is that we can use them to get from where we are in suffering to freedom. So don't worry. Don't worry too much about the technique. We shouldn't fight amongst ourselves, best technique, only technique, highest technique, most advanced technique. All that matters is, can we share with people a technique, or can we use a technique that enables us to get from illusion to truth, from darkness to light, from unreality to reality. And lastly, meditation has become, quite literally, our social responsibility. It's no longer just about our spiritual practice. That's why I was so happy to come here. And it's why I was so happy to hear about this conference. Meditation is now what every one of us is required by ethics, by values, by priorities. Like, if you want peace in the world, if you want sustainability in the world, if you want an end to poverty and exploitation in the world, meditation is our social responsibility. When we meditate, we move through the world at a different frequency. We act differently. We speak differently. We impact others differently. It is the most powerful way that we have to change ourselves and our planet. Thank you.
A calm mind is no longer a luxury. It is a necessity for clear thinking, wise decisions, and meaningful living. Thanks for reminding us, Sadhviji, that meditation is our dharohar, a timeless gift from our ancestors, India's gift to the world. And now this is a time for the book release. We are delighted to mark the release of the Budha CEO magazine, a powerful platform inspiring conscious leadership, inner transformation, a more awakened world.
We're releasing a magazine, Budha CEO, regular release, a corporate magazine. This theme is holistic living.
Quantum Coherence Technologies, Dr. Narendra Maripari, founder and Cube former chairman, Indian Overseas Bank, Mr. Rajkumar, managing director, MTK Textiles, and Mrs. Vani Chandrasekhar, director, Soul Trends, to felicitate our guest.
We have a little bit of time for Q&A, and Dr. Vinay Paul and then all the respected delegates of the guests on the stage have agreed to do this Q&A, and Sadhviji is also here. And so, can you have the mic, please? So, audience, anybody would like to have a question to any of the dignitaries here, please do ask. Please raise your hand. And we have heard some amazing sessions and then content today. We heard from Nagendra sir about this whole science of yoga so beautifully, and then Karthikeyan sir laid out the initial issue of why meditation very, very wonderfully, and then we have such a beautiful message from Upadhyayji on the yogic wisdom. Very simple terms they talked about. Yoga cannot be just body postures and asanas and anything more. And then Sadhviji talked about practical implementation. Can't be meditation here and then leave it here. It's got to be every day. It's got to be there in every moment of our life. Many more messages. And then we will lay down that Sri Vinod Paulji laid down the 6 steps, six things that we may have to do to really take it and accelerate meditation adoption. And so we'll definitely all of us come together to work on this. As this time, some questions, anybody?
I'm sure all of us know, all of you know, the International Day of Yoga was as a result of our Honorable Prime Minister addressing the United Nations 13 years back actually. But actually, the first International Day of Yoga was celebrated in Lisbon, 2002, proposed by Amrita Suryananda, the great Portuguese master. But did not happen. Years later, there was a conference at Art of Living campus in the presence of Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar. Again, Amrita Suryananda only brought that proposal. We had great masters like Dr. B.K. Sengar also. All UN should declare 21st June as International Day Yoga. I took it to United Nations, nothing happened. But actually it came into being only when a very devoted yoga practitioner, our Honorable Sri Narendra Modi ji, went and addressed the UN. Power of intention. When he addressed them, I think in December 2013, December if I remember correct, anyhow, whatever it is, the world accepted it. Power of intention of the practitioner. No nation opposed it, all the world accepted it. And as you know very well, Dr. Nagendra had given the protocol and all that. All over the world it's being practiced everywhere. But we found, originally when yoga means yoga, yogasana, pranayama, dhyanam, all together. But over a period of time, yoga was restricted to only Hatha Yoga, which was good enough. But later, we found what's happening. There is enough emphasis was not given on dhyanam, which is equally important, I would say even far more important, because the way things are happening, the negativity is increasing all over individual society, about which we spoke in the morning. And these senseless killings going on all over the world. Senseless, all for ego. In the First World War, Second World War, they were fought with sticks and stones and arrows and spears and bows. Even then, several millions were killed. But today, if some madman, warmonger, or by accident, any of the nuclear weapons are to be exploded, either by intention or by accident, the whole world can be destroyed. All that is created by the divine, man has acquired the capacity to destroy. Now what is the solution? A power of thought. Power of thought. What Hitler? Millions and millions were killed because of wicked thought. At the same time, noble thought in the thought of our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi ji, without shedding blood, without firing a shot, India got independence. So power of thought. Same in each one of us, our mind have got capable of both thoughts. That is why the technology of meditation is considered more important. Meditation only can give us the capacity to realize what we are, then the divinity in each one of us, where, we can enjoy health of the body, mind and spirit perfectly, help each other, respect the environment. As the Master said, there is enough in this world for everybody, need, but not enough even one man's greed. We are seeing what is happening in the world now. I don't want to make comment on that. Thousands and thousands of women and children getting killed, being starved. And also, the countries we cannot afford to feed even the population, diverting more and more money to creating more destructive weapons of how much you can destroy. Enough, but more. So we want to spread this idea. The good thoughts should be by everybody. All our great masters are doing it. All systems are doing it. I equally respect all the systems, all valuable. Now, unless we know the technology, we know that very well, simplest technology. So we should be able to, thank you, ma'am. We should be able to, we know the technology, we realize the value. Each one of us have realized the value. Now I also want to tell you why 21st December happened to be declared as the International Day of Yoga, International Meditation. I give tribute to all the great masters, all the systems. We got a huge parampara. But last few years only, we have been doing it. PSSM and Budha CEO Quantum Foundation, particularly, we have been doing regional conferences, world conferences, bringing everybody together. We don't say this is the only way. Adopt any system of meditation. But meditate, it's a must. Unless each one of us meditate, we cannot save humanity from the world of path of self-destruction. Sometimes we are worried. It's happening, we are seeing it now. So why 21st December? We really don't know why it was chosen. But one thing I can tell you, Brahmarshi Patriji has been celebrating this Dhyana Yajna for several years. He started it on 21st of December. 21st December for 10 days. In many parts of the country, they have been doing it. Several thousands of people gather, Dr. Paul. Several thousands of people come. Annadanam, round the clock, and also Patriji is a person. We all thought Dhyanam can be done only in silence. He is a man who say no. He married music and meditation. We have seen powerful meditation can be done. And also pyramids were created long back, thousands of years back. But he did more research and found meditating under the pyramid is more powerful. It's proved it. So several thousands of pyramids, small and big, have happened. The first big one was in Bangalore. I was associated with that from the beginning. Second biggest one was in Hyderabad. I was also with Patriji when they put it. Now these are thousands and thousands of people are doing it, and at homes also. Now, this message has gone all over the world now, even though started by a humble man, simple man. Last year when we went to America, in Dallas, some of the dedicated followers of this system of meditation, they took us to show a place, 100 acres of land they acquired near Dallas. They said, we are going to build the largest meditation for meditation in the world. We called it Omega meditation. See, all this is happening because, the time has come. While the negative forces are increased, the positive forces are also on the increase now. So it's the duty of all of us to, whatever, we are fortunate to come on this path, let us make our own contribution. Each one of us can do it because, as I mentioned, the body, no one person can do it. But together you can make miracles. Many hands make miracles. As Swami Kriyananda, the disciple of Yogananda, he used to sing, many hands make miracle. He's very used to speaking beautifully. We have seen it can happen. If many people can join it together, destroy. So the forces of creativity, positivity should also join, because not only we have to live, we have to create a better world for our children and grandchildren. Otherwise, there is no future for humanity. Thank you. Namaste.
We have time for a couple of questions. Can I just give them quickly?
My pranam to all the distinguished speakers on the days. My name is Radha Sharma. I am an academic. My first exposure to yoga for better living was at BHU when I was a student there several decades ago. And I have continued pursuing yoga ever since in my research, in my teaching, in my practice, and also did a couple of projects supported by Ministry of Health and also other organizations, WHO and so on. Sir, I have observed that when I used meditation as a way to attract or to calm down a student's mind during management classes, MBA classes, at one of the leading institutes in NCR, I found the students to demand. I introduced it in few of my classes, and when I would enter the class, they would say, ma'am, meditation, because they are highly stressed. So the point I am trying to submit for the consideration of this august body is that unless a thing is made, a part of the curriculum, As in school, we have sports. So everybody participates in sports. Some people who are interested, they become champions. They become, start pursuing a career in that. At college level, particularly these days, a lot of societies. Question is that
Yes.
can it be considered to be made mandatory, particularly in institutions of higher education where highly intelligent students join, management, technical education, IITs, and
Yes.
other
So
management
can it be made
institutions.
mandatory in all education systems, including higher education and management and technology? Can meditation be made mandatory? She finds
Yes.
that it is very useful when they start the class.
Yes, already our expert committee has prepared the syllabus and it has been introduced and it has been made compulsory. But in India, the whole education system is governed by the states. Every state have their own freedom to do that. So some states have applied, some states have not done. But wherever the central government gives the funding, it has been made compulsory. It is going on. So other places has to go.
Dr. Vinod Paul, would you like to answer this, sir? Will you have any take on this?
Thank you. Building on the point that has been just made, I think making compulsory certain elements in the curriculum takes its own path in terms of consensus building, the content and so on. So I'll not go in that direction. Someday it should happen, and I think perhaps time has come that we start discussing. But more importantly, the visibility of meditation as an important component of our education, because education is about not only knowledge but also self and character and so on within that rubric. We should get the tools promoted. We should get the methodologies promoted. We should start making it visible. And no harm in making it voluntary to begin with. Because we need people, the teachers, the leadership of the colleges and the students to start recognizing that it is to be owned up and practiced. Today, nobody would say that yoga is, by and large, yoga should not be visible as an activity or even as an optional curriculum in a way, technically, in a college, because yoga moved like that. But yoga, by extension, includes meditation. We heard that emphatically today. So the point is to take that journey in a certain way to reach there and create the models. For example, a college or institution or an IIT can offer it as an option to begin with. Let the goodness of this spread. Let the teachers own it up, the labs own it up, the senior students own it up, and then gradually it will become a way of life. So I'll work on both the sides. One, on building up a case for it by positivity, and also consider pathways about how to incorporate this into a formal curriculum. Thank you. At this point of our journey.
Thank you, sir. So thank you all, friends. We'll continue the sessions. We have P.R. Singh ji also joined, and we have meditation before we get to the lunch. Meditation too, so thank you all.